Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Powerful podcast. And today's guest is a friend of mine, Sherrie Shaw. She's a remarkable woman. I've known her for years, and I'm going to give you a little bit of background about just who she is at the moment. And then I want Sherrie to really tell her story. And she has a fascinating story about her life and how she got to be where she is and the obstacles that she's overcome to get where she is today. So let me just give you a little background on Miss Sherrie.
I'm sure most of it's true.
Do you like my glasses? I felt like I borrowed these today. There's like some Dew
I
glasses.
love them.
I couldn't find mine.
Do you like my ears? Oh my God.
Sherrie is the business development manager for Nationwide Mortgage Bankers serving the greater Fredericksburg area. She is an active member at the Fredericksburg Area Association and Fredericksburg Area Builders Association. I should say that we have about roughly 1,600 members at the Realtors Association. And she has, at one point, if I'm not mistaken, you got a big award. What was that?
Well, actually, I've gotten a few, but just keep going.
Affiliate of the Year.
Twice.
Yeah. She's a big deal.
Also Spirit Award.
No surprises on that one.
And then Community Service Award for the Builders Association as well.
No surprises there, sweetheart.
I have to go look at my office. I have them on my wall.
See what's lined up, what awards are lined up. She has a passion for creating strong business relationships. I will attest to that. And connections that stand the test of time, and uses her love of teaching to bring relevant training to the real estate industry. Sherrie strives to create and market new business opportunities throughout the community, not only for herself, but for others. I threw that in there. She has worked in various aspects of real estate industry for over 20 years and brings a new and fresh perspective to all things real estate. She loves to offer her time and talents to friends, family, realtors, associations, and organizations in order to make a difference. Sherrie is passionate about making a positive impact on her community and volunteers with local charities, including the Greater Fredericksburg Habitat for Humanity, Fairy Godmother Project, and the Fredericksburg Regional Food Bank. Her sophisticated approach. Did you write this? Her sophisticated approach?
Someone else wrote something and I had to find a synonym and change it. So
her sophisticated approach to business development coupled with her infinite spirit.
Yes, I had to change
her part.
That.
As a truly exceptional leader who is not only focused on achieving professional goals, but also on creating a lasting positive influence in the world around her. She is a proud mom of 2 children and a very proud yaya to her grandchildren. So, and that only scratches the surface of Sherrie Shaw. So when I met Sherrie Shaw about 12 years ago, she was a force to be reckoned with. She had lots of energy, lots of excitement, enthusiasm for everything that she did and still does. But when I started to learn a little bit more about Sherrie and her background, then I truly realized what a remarkable woman she is. Sherrie has had to overcome some really interesting things in her life to succeed. And so I want to give Sherrie the floor and tell you a little bit about herself. Sherrie, start from wherever you want to start with. And I would encourage you, not all people, but I would encourage you to start with your youth.
Well, yes. So let's see. I was born by emergency C-section because I started going into fetal distress, and they started cutting on my mom before she was totally out. Also sliced my face.
Oh.
Yep. So I came into this world, pretty exciting. So let's just start there.
As you do all things, Sherrie.
Yes, all things. And hold on just one second. Okay. Something just popped up on my screen.
Technical difficulties.
I couldn't see your pretty face.
I'm going to take these glasses off.
No, it makes you look so studious. Yes.
Makes me look like from 1975.
70s were good. So I guess I kind of start there because all the doctors told my mom she would never be able to have kids. So the fact that I was even born, my mom says I was a miracle in and of itself. But, obviously came into this world with, again, under distress from my mom. And so it kind of brought on her bipolar depression that she did
Oh.
not get help for until I was in my 20s. So that kind of sets the stage right there, too. We started going to a church. I refer to it as a crazy church. I guess I'm just going to be totally honest. I mean, I could filter myself, but why? Basically, it was a cult. And I went to that church until I was in my 20s. So it wasn't until after I had kids that I was just like, hey, I want something different for my kids. So
What did you determine? What was the determining factor in calling it a cult? What was it that made it?
So that really wasn't until after the fact, and that's actually something that the church like recognized about themselves. So we weren't like a drink the Kool-Aid kind of thing, but it was definitely all about man's interpretation of the Bible and all the rules. So basically, I grew up as just a complete rule follower. In other words, I wasn't worthy of love from God or from anybody else unless I follow the rules. And of course, I had to be perfect. There was no room for error in that. So,
So I remember one
um,
of the things that you told me about your youth was you wanted to do cheerleading at
mhm,
school, and you weren't
mhm.
allowed to. Why was that?
Well, so basically, like I tried out and I made the team, but couldn't do it because their games were on Friday night. And so Friday night, we kept a lot of Old Testament holy days.
Hmm.
So it was a lot of like Jewish customs, but then also just different interpretations to whatever suited the person's that was in charge to whatever their whim at the time. And so yeah, so I did all this work and was so excited and everything, but then it was like, oh well, there's Friday night and Saturday night games, and so of course, had to tell them that I would not be going to any Friday night games. And they're like, well, why are we going to have you on the team if you can only go to half the games? So yeah, that was I remember doing like Christmas parties at school. And like when my parents, my mom would find out and everything, she would go up there and tell the, teacher, we don't celebrate Christmas. I will be coming and picking them up. We didn't celebrate birthdays either. So anytime that there were, birthday parties, Christmas parties, the only holiday that we actually celebrated was Thanksgiving. So anytime anything else was going on in school, I would have to be put over in a corner and I would have to be sectioned off because I was not allowed to participate any of that. So
I'm just curious, were you allowed to wear makeup and
nope, nope, didn't
interesting?
wear, didn't, wasn't allowed to wear makeup. Well, and the comment I made earlier um, about my mom not getting help is that we weren't allowed to go to doctors because if we went to doctors, it meant we put faith in men instead of God. So yeah, so we
Interesting.
yep, nope, didn't go to any doctors, I didn't have any of my shots. Uh-huh. hmm
Oh,
Yeah.
fascinating.
Yeah, so we didn't it was definitely something. It was like I led this like dual life. So like we would go stay with my grandmother on the weekends and go to church because there was only certain places. Of course, I had to go on Saturday. So like I tried to fit in during the week, but I wasn't allowed to hang out with anyone that didn't go to church with us because we were the chosen ones. So I could only hang out with chosen ones.
So I'm guessing that meant that you also were not allowed to marry outside of your faith.
Oh, absolutely. Correct. Yes. Uh-huh. So I met my children's father, of course, in the church and everything. Um, I was quite young. And but I mean, he came to church, so therefore he was perfect.
Ugh,
Didn't really,
so
yeah, nothing
was he
else really.
perfect? I already know the answer to that. Was he perfect?
Um, we might need to go off camera for this conversation. But I mean, so I certainly I dealt with a lot of tragedy. I had twin sisters that my mom carried for 6 months, and they were born and died on the same day.
Oh, wow.
Mhm. Yep. So let's see, 75. So they would have turned 49 in January.
Wow.
Yep. And
So did you have at home births, or did you guys go to the?
so I was born in the hospital where they sliced me, and so then a year and 3 days later, my brother was born by a midwife
Aha. I
because
wondered
they had
about
started.
that.
Yeah.
I wondered about that.
So yeah, I was actually very shy. I did not really have any friends, and I stuttered horribly. So who I
Knowing
was
you now,
as
Sherrie, I would never have guessed that. You're so well spoken.
it has taken a lot of time and just learning. Sometimes you may catch me doing this. I have to stop and learn to slow down and enunciate my words and think about what I'm saying. But when I get excited, you will definitely hear me start stuttering again. But um, I I certainly went through a lot. There was a lot of horrible things that happened to me, and not just because of the church or whatever, but I've lived through a lot of tragedy in life. I got married the first time after 12 days after I turned 18, because again,
You
that's
were
what I was
young.
supposed to do. Yes, yeah. Um, but I mean, like I said, my children are amazing, and I would not change that for
Your children
anything.
are amazing.
Yes.
Absolutely. So
Hmm.
how old were you when you had your first child?
I was 20. I know everyone thinks, oh my God, you got married at 18. You must have been pregnant. No, I wasn't. So, yeah. So I had Sarah when I was 20, and then I had Justin when I was 23. Bought my first house, actually when I was 20. Hmm. Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. Mhm. So,
Wow.
we were living in Alexandria. I was working in Crystal City. I was on the NAVC data project at 18 years old. Um,
Wow.
yeah, and so then was going to go to college full time, and then oopsies, got pregnant, and definitely was not something that I planned on. So yeah, ended up actually moving to Stafford, Virginia in 1993. So yeah, so I've been here in the Fredericksburg area for over 30 years. And even though I consider Virginia Beach like my hometown, it's kind of crazy sometimes because this is where my kids consider home. I'm like, no, no, no,
Sure.
no. Yeah, I guess it is. Oh, and there's
So
also a good chance that there's wine in this mug. Just saying. Shameless
so
advertising. Actually, no,
so
it's my lunch,
it's well the
which could
liquid
also be
lunch.
wine, but no, really, it's soup.
It's soup. Okay. Um, you've frozen up for a second. Let me see what's
Yeah,
going on
you
here.
you
It's
froze
buffering.
up
Give me a
too, and then
minute
you came
here. It
back.
looks like
So
I'm gonna
I
have to do
hope.
a little editing. Okay,
Yeah,
I think we're back now.
yeah. You
It's
you
okay.
froze
I
for a
can
minute
fix that.
too, but I think we're good. Can you hear me now?
All right. Well, let's hope this is hopes we don't have any more technical difficulties. But luckily, I can edit.
Yes,
So
yes.
so how did you was it what was your goal as a young woman? Now you're married with kids. Are you thinking you want to go into business? Do you want to stay home and raise your babies? What are your where are you?
So, I mean, really, all I ever wanted to be was wife, mother, teacher. I mean, I had very, very, very simple goals. I was actually going to school to be an accountant. Like, can you imagine me sitting behind a
No.
desk all day long crunching numbers? Um, but so I actually participated in the Duke University talent search when I was in seventh grade. I'm actually really good at math. I'm really kind of a nerd. Um, Graduated with honors. But yeah, so when I took my SATs in the seventh grade, I actually scored high enough. I could have gone to college in seventh grade.
Wow.
Yeah, but instead I got
So
married.
you're smarty pants.
Okay.
So you get married, you have some children, and what
Hmm.
happens?
Okay, I think I need to make this the shortened version. Um, so, I mean, it was kind of one of those things where when we stopped going to the crazy church and our
Was that your
relationship.
decision or his?
It was actually mine. It was something that I kind of, but again, like I said, at this point in time, the church realized that, hey, maybe we kind of misinterpreted some things in the Bible. So by this point in time, we could celebrate Christmas, we could celebrate birthdays. So I celebrated my first birthday at 17,
No
and I
kidding.
celebrated my first Christmas at 21.
Wow.
Yep, started wearing makeup, at least that my parents knew about. Um, and I was like 17. And so yeah, I was so we had kind of gotten away from a lot of the craziness. But I just said I want my children to be close to the people that they live in the neighborhood with, and that they go to school with and go to church with. And at this point in time, we were driving like over an hour to go to church.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I started doing like some church hopping, church searching in the North Stafford area. And I remember sitting in Mount Ararat and just sobbing
Mm.
because I was also told that, if you walk into another church that's not the chosen one, whatever, basically you're going to burst into flames. So I mean, like, I
Wow.
was literally scared. And I think that pretty much like sums up like the first really part of my life is just I lived in fear all the time. I lived in fear of not pleasing God. I lived in fear of not pleasing my parents. Um I didn't feel loved. I felt loved by one person. Um yeah, until I ended up getting a couple friends along the way, but I mean, primarily it was my mama. She
Mm.
was, yeah. I knew that there was one person that loved me. Um,
Unconditionally is what you mean.
oh no, just loved it all.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And boy, I'm really getting very transparent with you. We may have to edit some more of this. Holy crap!
Well,
I don't
I,
know
I
who's gonna listen to this.
I think what's fascinating about it is and important is to understand how our upbringing and our background really formulates who we are. Because what
Oh,
I see of
absolutely.
you is what I've always seen of you is somebody who thinks outside the box, someone who is not necessarily a rule follower, but you're not a rule breaker, and somebody who really sort of you always seem like you're filled with joy, and you make other people feel good. And so it's interesting to know that in your past you were dealing with this feeling of not being enough, not being worthy of
Oh,
being
absolutely.
loved.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you know what I mean, and it's still something that I have struggled with. I'm not going to say that I'm still struggling because I have a very good business coach now that says I shouldn't repeat those things. And I, it's all the stories that we tell ourselves. But yeah, so I wanted my children, like I said, just to have more than what I did. Oh, I mean, like, me becoming a mother was just the most amazing, amazing thing. And I just really, I wanted to do it better. I wanted to be better. I wanted to do it better. And I mean, now my mom and I have got the most amazing relationship. So let me just put this in here for anybody listening, and actually with both of my parents. I have got I mean, it's like the relationship that I always wanted. And I think that sometimes, I mean, again, like, we may wait a little bit longer for the things that are the most important, the things that we want, but they're so worth it. And that's just one thing, like with my mom, is that she was doing the very best that she could. And that's just, where I kind of look at, and my dad too. They were doing the best that they could.
With the resources that they had. Yeah,
Yeah,
I get that.
and it wasn't necessarily what I needed at the time, and I kind of had to take the long way around. But man, like you said, I mean, the stories and the lessons and the lives that I've impacted along the way has just been incredible. So, like I don't want to live with regrets and stuff like that. I just think that I've taken a different path than most people, but I'm happy with where I am now.
I think that's such a good point.
I'm gonna get a little choked up. Okay.
I think that's such a good point, to recognize that we don't always get to success and to where we think we want to be, should be.
You know,
with
Pam,
with
yeah, I think what you're trying to say is we don't always get what we want, but sometimes we just might find that we get what we need. Is that?
I was really suggesting, I think what's interesting is, some of us have a more direct path than others. But I think the beautiful thing about that is, for me, is recognizing that you never gave up. You never said, I quit. And you continue to move forward in your career and in your relationships. So you had a turning point. Obviously, what I know about you is that your marriage to this gentleman that you met as a child essentially did not last. And
yeah, he ended up marrying my supposed friend and neighbor across the street. How's
yeah,
that for a story?
yeah. And
But
so
again, that would
so
be a
yeah. So then you've got, so where do you go from there? At what point did you say, I want more?
honestly, I really didn't start saying that I wanted more until about 10 years ago.
No
So,
kidding.
oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, I was devastated. Again, all I ever wanted was wife, mother, teacher. And I had I had started substitute teaching in Stafford County. I loved it. So I started like at Head Start preschool program. I did elementary, middle, high school, alternative education. I mean, Sunday school teacher, vacation Bible school. I mean, I was given opportunities to teach. It just wasn't in the way that I was expecting.
Yeah.
Along the way, I was fabulous 50 senior sales director with Mary Kay.
Did you
Yes.
really? I didn't know that
Oh
about you.
yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I mean, because it was always the marriage and the kids that came first.
Mm-hmm.
And so I tried to find things to do to supplement my income and a way to give back and everything. And so I really enjoyed doing that, but it was how do I say this in a nice way? I guess I really don't have to be nice because
No.
he'll probably never listen to this. But it was either I had to choose between my marriage or my career, and of course I chose my marriage, even
Mm-hmm.
though it still ended. Again, I don't regret that.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it was just um, after this, this person that I had been with for over half my life. I mean, again, like I didn't have any dreams without him. I didn't have any dreams
Wow.
without the family. I didn't even
Wow.
have money put aside. I mean, it was just, yeah. And so completely and totally devastated.
How old are your
Met
kids at
someone,
this point?
they were 8 and 11.
So they're still very young.
Yes, yes,
And
very.
you realized probably pretty quickly on, I need an income.
Yes. Yep. Realize that well, actually, what I thought first is that I can't do this by myself, which their father continued to tell me, you can never do this by yourself. He wanted me to move away with the kids.
Without him?
Yeah. He says, you can't do this by yourself. You need to go live with your grandmother.
Oh, that's
Well,
interesting.
again, I mean, she was still our neighbor, so it made it kind of awkward when he went to go visit his girlfriend and his, wife and kids were across the street.
Goodness gracious.
So yeah, so another neighbor introduced me to someone, and I was just at a point where again, like I can't do it by myself, and I mean, I just fell head over heels in love too soon.
Hmm.
He was a Navy man. Oh my God, his uniform. Oh, I mean,
I was going to say, Sherrie, it was the uniform, wasn't it?
it was so, I mean, I love a man in uniform, and I'm just saying, like in a pinch, I mean, FedEx or UPS will do. Okay. So anyway, I got involved too soon, fell in love too soon, got married too soon. So that was my second husband, and it was too much. It was just too much. He'd never been married and never had kids before. Meanwhile, I had my ex, living like a mile away, and, still wanted to be a part of their lives whenever it was convenient for him. And my kids miss their father. So I was stuck in the middle all the time. I was stuck in the middle of, trying to make this new marriage work and giving my kids, trying to make sure that they had, a relationship with their father. Because again, like, this is something that, I felt like that I really didn't get to have until later on in life, was a relationship with my parents. And um, yeah. So anyways, so we got divorced.
Where do you go from there? What happens?
Well, I mean, we
you're
actually we actually reconnected a few years later. So
okay.
Second husband.
I got to hear this. How did that happen?
My daughter
I'm
was
not quite done yet.
Yes. So my daughter was friends with his nephew on Facebook and had seen that his father passed away, which I was very, very close to, loved him desperately. And actually, side note, God, I don't know how long we have on this. People are probably going to be done listening to me. But so after my second husband got divorced, and of course I was working for a title company then, and he had bought a house with somebody that she found him on Facebook. I mean, it's amazing that I even like Facebook. She was sending him messages on Facebook when him and I were having issues, like, oh, remember when we first met, and blah 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 blah. So anyways, just made it look like, oh, the grass is greener. Well, guess what? It's not. But
it
they
rarely
bought a
is,
house.
honey. It rarely is.
Yeah. But they bought a house together, and then she pretty much told him to get out when he was in Ohio burying his dad.
Oh my.
Yeah. So, but the buyer actually worked with us, and so I knew that they had separated, and I actually got to sign the disbursement checks. Yes, I did. Yes, I did. How's that for poetic justice?
Wow. Yeah. So we know where to go with that.
I know. So I feel like that we need to kind of fill in the gaps there, like a little bit. So
well, let me ask you a question. Let me put my 1970s glasses back on here. So all this is happening. What did you learn about yourself during all this? What did you learn that made you think? Because you said, I really didn't start to invest in myself well until 10 years ago. So, but from my experience of knowing you, everybody knows you. You've made a name for yourself. You are quite successful in the real estate industry in Fredericksburg, and nobody who doesn't know any of that would have no idea this is going on in your life. And then, and this is the most interesting thing to me, because what I want to know is that how is it that some women succeed to continue to move forward despite their difficulties and tragedies and challenges, and other women, it just paralyzes them? What did you learn about yourself and propelled you forward?
So, I mean, I think to say that I was never paralyzed would be a lie. I mean, and I think that we all go through different periods of that. I think that, again, there was some really bad things that happened to me in my childhood, but I mean, not to sound cliche and not to, basically give people, it was God, and it was my grandmother. I know it's not very popular now to say that we love God. It's not popular anywhere, but hey, I love Jesus. Hope that doesn't turn off some of your listeners. And if it does, you know what? You can go. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe we're not supposed to say that. Go pound sand, whatever. But I mean, but that's what it was for me. And so
it's your faith, really, which is interesting to me. Your faith, the legalism that you lived under as a child. And what I say is that that's not faith. that's just rule
No,
following. Um,
correct.
at some point, that that turned into a real,
Mm,
true, living faith.
yes.
And
Yes, absolutely. Hmm.
and so when did that happen?
So that was in April of 1998. Hmm. And I went to go see my nephew being he had just been born. Went to church with my cousins again, like scared to death. But it's like I finally, like, I was sitting there and I'm like, oh my god, like I really, like, I felt the presence of Jesus, and I didn't burn, didn't burn into flames, didn't go to hell. None of that stuff happened. And so it was after that that I started, searching for our own church. um but I mean, it really, so like, the things that, I mean, I've read the Bible front to back actually a few times, but it was also the research that I did. So I mean, like really learning about, history. And I've always kind of played like the devil's advocate. Like, I don't just, if you tell me something, whether it's good or bad, I don't just say, "Oh, that's great," or "Oh, that's bad." I I question it, and
Yeah,
not,
as scripture
and
says, you were a Berean. So
oh, is
you
that what I am?
yeah, you
I've
are.
been I've been
The
called
the
another.
the church, the church in Berean, where they heard something and then they went back to investigate and determine if it was truth.
Okay, that sounds good. I've been called the other B word, but I like Berean better.
I don't think there's a successful woman alive who hasn't been called that B word. Let's be honest.
But yeah, I mean, so like I really have this amazing ability. And again, when I say I have the amazing ability, I know that it's been given to me. But I have this amazing ability to look at the situation and look at the circumstances, and I'm always looking for that silver lining. I'm always looking um for the good in people. I mean, like,
Yeah,
you really have to do me dirty a
yeah.
lot for me to not at least see some speck of good in you.
I
Um
would, I would, I would say that I definitely see that in you all the time. I think you've always got a kind word for somebody, and I appreciate that.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, but I mean, again, like when I first met you and just seeing you come on the real estate scene and everything, and you were like a breath of fresh air. I mean, like, you were just like, oh wow, like you were just beaming. So,
Thank
and I
you.
mean, yes. And I think, again, like that's your staying power. Like, you're still here and you're still beaming and you're still giving and doing this podcast thing, and seriously, like, asking me to be on this is just like, I mean, like, I really did get tears in my eyes. Like, when I was reading this, I was just like, wow, like you want me?
Well, I think
Little old me.
you have such a tremendous story that it's fascinating to me because, again, what I'm searching for, what I'm looking for, is why is it that you succeeded when you clearly had a lot of things against you? How is it that you have really? I mean, what you didn't say. Um, in your introduction was, and we touched on it a little bit, was all the awards that you won, and the awards that probably that you're most proud of are the ones that are community service awards, spirit
Mhm.
awards, not
Mhm.
necessarily in terms of production, but awards where you have had the opportunity to help somebody, and I think you are most recognized as somebody who is always you're always ready to say yes, I can help.
Yeah, and sometimes to my own detriment. I mean,
Well,
I have had a little health scare recently, and so I am kind of learning to just, step back a little bit. But I think one of the biggest reasons that, I mean, like, if I see someone, if I'm out anywhere and I see someone alone, the first thing that I want to do is I want to go connect with that person. But it's not just that. I mean, that's why, I go to like so many events and everything, is that I love connecting people,
Yeah.
because I know that that's really not something that I had. And so instead of, like, sitting here and like, yeah, woe is me, well, it's like, I mean, I did meet, some amazing people. I've got one friend, Angela, we've been friends since we were 10. Another friend, Christine, that we've been friends since we were 16. So like two like really long-term friends, and over the past several years, well, God, wow, Kelly and I have been friends for over 20 years. We met when Pickle was was one, and she's 20. Wow, yeah.
Is that your
And then
nickname
yeah,
for your daughter or your dog?
that
Pickle?
that's that's her daughter's nickname. Yeah, gosh, she's gonna kill me. Anyways, and then Barb, that we've been friends for like over 12. So I mean, like I've really made some very fierce friendships.
Yeah.
And again, like some people ask, like, how could you even want to have friends again when someone that was supposed to be your friend turned on you and destroyed your life and your marriage and everything? It's like, well, you know, that's their story that they have to
Mm.
tell. That's what they have to answer to. Um, but again, I've al- when, I've always wanted to be just the best example to my children. And of course, I thought that example was going to be, we lived happily ever after and we're celebrating our 25th and 50th anniversary. Yes, I mean, like that's what I thought was going to happen. That's what I wanted. But
Yeah.
instead, the example that I became was that, you don't give up. You don't give up, and you're tough, and you find a way and you make a way. I mean, there was a time when I was on food stamps with my kids, I mean, like we have it has been just like up and down and up and down. Even when I was still married to my first husband, he wanted to have everything like right then. So we did debt consolidation twice. And now, the only two bills that I have, is my house payment, which I have a lot of equity in, and then my car payment, which I have a lot of equity in. So, I mean, those are just I I
You've
try
learned
to
to live
appreciate.
frugally. You've
Well,
you've obviously, as you said, you've done the food bank and the food stamps, the food card, and
see,
you've
it's
learned to
just
be
full
able.
circle.
You've
It's
learned to
just
live
full
very frugally.
circle.
Okay, well, let me
Yeah.
ask you another question. So,
Okay. I don't
okay,
I don't even know if I fully answered that one. I hope I did.
I
I kind
I,
of tend to
I think you
ramble.
did. Uh,
Okay.
what? Let's ask. Let me ask you this: what motivates you to get up in the morning now?
Right now at this particular moment in time is that my grandkids will be here on Wednesday. Um,
How old are your grandbabies?
they're 3 and 5.
3 and 5.
Mm-hmm.
Oh
Oh,
man.
I mean, people, you hear people say, "Oh, being a grandparent is so much da 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 da," and I mean, it really is something and if you don't know, you don't know. But when you do know, you do know. And
Yeah.
and my daughter lives out in Seattle with her husband, and I've
You
I've
just went
had
to
a
visit
lot of
them.
I've had a lot of time to come to terms with that. But I mean, I do. They come out here, or either I go out there, at least every 3 months. Like that's my limit. At least every quarter, because I mean the kids change so much,
Don't
and
they?
it's FaceTime in between and everything. And so I mean, I think that's just I mean, that's really like one of the biggest things is, again, it's not that I'm being an example for my children, but also my son in love and my daughter in love.
I
I
love that you
mean,
call them that
I
instead of your
mean,
daughter-in-law.
sometimes,
Your daughter-in-love. I love that. That's really
well,
precious.
and I think that's just it. Is that sometimes the best example that you can be in, ministering to someone else's marriage is what not to do, and that's kind of me.
I think you're the poster child for that, but I think which kind of leads me to the next question. So what rules, if any, do you have for your life now?
Ho ho ho! Interesting that you say that.
Because you were a big rule
Um,
follower for
yes,
a long
yes.
time, but we
Oh,
can't
yeah,
just get rid of all rules in life. So,
correct.
what rules
Mhm.
do you live by?
So again, I signed up for this coaching program last year, and of course was too busy to do it. So I started over again. I know it's crazy. So I started over again, and that's one of the questions um, that I was supposed to be answering. And so what I've decided is that, like, what my focus needs to be on now, is what's God's will. what
Hmm.
brings me joy, and what makes me money. Um, I I have been called. I know it's shocking, a strong-willed child, strong-willed person, and um, again, I think a lot of that is just because I had to. It was a survival skill for me as a kid, and so now it's just kind of stepping back and listening. It's like, yeah, Sherry, you could do this on your own, but you don't have to.
Oh, what a great point, Sherry. What a great point. I think that's such a truth for women in general. I think that's such a beautiful thing to remind women that you don't have to go it alone. And it doesn't
Right.
mean that you have to be dependent on solely on another human being, i.e., your
Right.
husband or my husband and I have been married for, gosh, close to 40 years, and
You must have gotten married really young
I
too,
was,
because you
uh,
couldn't possibly be over 50.
but I adore Chris, but he cannot fulfill my every need
Right.
and whim, and
Yes.
vice versa. So, all right, well, let me ask you this. Do you have any favorite quotes? Do you have any favorite books in your life? Anything that you are reading right now that you want to share that's had an impact?
So one book is You're a Badass.
I have yet to
And
pick that up. I saw that on the New
yes,
York
yes.
Times bestseller, but I haven't picked it up yet.
And so, oh god, so it's a badass. You're a badass at sales, and you're a badass every day. So there's like, several different books in that series, and that's something that I've kind of adopted too. Again, sometimes it's just to motivate myself,
Hmm.
like hashtag badass club, and hashtag, like you're a badass and everything. And sometimes it's like, what, I look in the mirror and I don't feel like a badass, but if I start saying the things that I know are true and putting away the things that are lies, then I can be a badass every day. Another one
Wow.
is a movie quote, and it's "You should be kissed, and often, and by someone who knows what they're doing." And so, I think that that's just it. I mean, like, I am still a hopeless romantic. I still believe that I'm going to live happily ever after. And I know I'm going to live happily ever after. I hope that it is with, a romantic partner. I've been holding out for Hugh Jackman, so we'll have to see if that works out. And so, but I mean, again, I know that the people that are in my life right now, the friends and the business associates and my family, I mean, I have got so much to be thankful for. I've got so much to be grateful for. And I think that that's just it. I spent a lot of time sad, a lot of time crying. Um, but it's just it really is something that I don't know. I mean, I think maybe the first time that I kind of like stepped out of the norm and kind of stepped out and, kind of tiptoed and did, just like something a little bit different, 30 years ago. And I've just been building up on that little by little. Of course, having setbacks, we all have like setbacks and everything, but it really is just about being grateful and being hopeful. Um, and again, like
Love that. I love that. My
sometimes it's
mentor talks about an attitude of being grateful and how that can change
yeah.
your perspective.
Yes, yes. And again, I mean, even if all that I have to be grateful for are my friends, my children, my grandchildren, my home, look at how many people don't even have that. So, like
True.
I, d- I don't like comparing myself to other people. I mean, unless it's Jennifer Aniston. I get told sometimes I look like her.
Sherry, I love you. And I just want to thank you so much for giving me this time to just hear more about your background and how it has how it has propelled you forward in your life. You are a remarkable woman. I love the way that you love others. I love the way that you inspire and encourage other people. And I just want to thank you so much for sharing.
You're You're welcome. I can't believe I got through this whole thing without crying. Again, that's one of those coping mechanisms. Sometimes it's like, okay, you're about to cry, so crack a joke and say something funny. So Pam, I really do appreciate with you. I don't often tell some of these parts of my story, so I don't know who's going to be listening to this and
I
who's listening
respect and
right now.
appreciate that.
But whoever's listening, and hey, if you need someone to talk to, you know where to find me. I'm kind of everywhere.
God bless you.
Oh, throwing open all the curtains wide.